on the Claffey Honda is on the second row of the grid, having been dissuaded from racing for Kawasaki in MotoGP for the last 3 rounds. We watch the lights, wait for them to change. Who's going to get the good start and how fast will Cours get away? He gets a flying start from the 4th row of the grid, and Cours, I think, might be on the case and will be getting himself straight into the mix. But look at this, Norihaga and Yukio Kageyama, the flying Japanese samurai swordsmen, have got to the front and they are leading the way. So Yamaha Suzuki, a flying start by Kageyama, disappointed with his Superpole lap because he really feels this track suits him, and he's already taken the lead. Here comes Vermeulen.
And Chris Walker's on the outside looking into the hairpin. I'm sure Chris Walker will be looking at making some places here.
Walker says, oh, Walker goes underneath. Oh, and they hit one another. He clashes with Haga. Walker goes up into 2nd place, and Haga almost goes down, and he almost takes Toseland with him, but Toseland luckily sneaks through, and Norrie's gone from 1st to 5th with that one move. That was a bit of a slap-up move.
When was the last time you saw Haga being out-muscled at a hairpin?
Wow, and Walker was the man who did it, and the Walker who's riding in terrific pain with that race. Oh, and Kirchner's thrown right up out of the seat of the Claffey Honda, but manages to hang on. And then we come up the hill, they dip into this, this is a blind right-hander as they go through here on the hollow, and then they curve left up the hill to the top hairpin. Vermeulen, Walker, Kageyama, what an amazing start for Stalker, who, although he may be staying with Kawasaki most likely next year, hasn't put pen to paper. He's in 2nd place. 4th place for James Toseland. Come on, Toes, let's see you keep that Ducati right in the mix and show what you're made of. Toseland starting from 5th place on the grid. That's Carl Muggeridge, who started from the front row of the grid but melted back into the pack a bit on the 2nd of the 10 Cartier Hondas. His teammate Vermeulen leads, 2nd Walker. Oh, absolutely alongside Chris as they go past us is Kageyama, and he outbreaks him into the 1st Grand Akuba.
And I tell you what, Mr. Cours is not too far off. He's made a flying start and a good first lap.
He's in 7th place. Yep. Cours is 7th. He's got ahead of Neukirchner after Neukirchner's big moments, and that answers the questions of people who thought that he might not be making a big effort. There he is, number 11, right in the mix already, and ahead of Neukirchner, Pitt and Frankie Chili and Lorenzo Lanzi, who made a pretty nightmarish start. Look at that as James Toseland tries to see his way underneath Chris Walker, and I think he might have got him. And there's a real brave, absolutely terrific dive down, and Walker hasn't given way. Up to 170 miles an hour and braking hard and deep into the right-hander.
Does Walker ever give way? Especially when it's your fellow Brit in the race that's trying to pass him.
Course, the new world champion on Stara Corona Suzuki. And the man...
Oh, that's
Walker goes wide and Toseland
each other up.
What are they doing?
They need to settle themselves down.
They do. They're supposed to be mates, and they've allowed a big gap to open up in front of them, and Norihaga and Carl Muggeridge and Troy Cours are right behind them.
And this is what Toseland said. He actually was at pains to point out immediately to us when we saw him in the paddock after a rather disappointing all through practice for him. He said, no, it's not. Oh, Haga. What's that thing's loose. And Toseland said that on race rubber, he says, I can do something, no problem.
Now he's got through. He's got through ahead of Walker. He's gone wide. Stalker comes straight back under him. Well, you're not having any of that.
It's like it's a knockout, Jack.
And they go past us now. A great string of riders behind these two as Toseland heads back. Oh, and they've even knocked over the cone.
That was Muggeridge getting pushed wide by Walker and Toseland and hitting the cones. I just hope that didn't go flying over the track and hit everybody. I don't think it did. We'd have known about it.
So this away they go now, round that long right-hander at Estoril, and then this terrific back straight that takes them up to within touching distance of 200 miles per hour. And this is where Julien Da Costa had an astonishing crash yesterday when he clipped another French wildcard rider along the back and got flipped off. Look at Muggeridge going underneath Walker. Walker tries to retaliate, coming out of the hairpin and does. And someone's gone down. It might be Haga.
It is Haga.
Haga's been having a bit of a nightmare ride and he's gone down, and he'll be disappointed with that because, of course, he is 3rd in the championship, but not by such a large amount with 255 points against Toseland's 228.
Yeah, he got clipped. Tom completely not his fault, it's his teammate.
And that was Andrew Pitt who touched him.
Yep.
So Haga's been bumped off twice in that hairpin, and the second time down and out for good.
I tell you what, you want to be a fly on the wall when he gets back to the garage.
And look at this, Walker is still there in 3rd place, and Toseland has been beaten back to 5th.
Muggeridge is the man on the move, though.
Well, Muggeridge has been fast all weekend.
He has.
And he was disappointed. He just to say hung on to the front row of the grid, but disappointed not to be better after his Super Pole lap. And it says Yukio Kageyama. He too was quick all weekend. He set the fastest lap. He was the first man to beat Neil Hodgson's record on Friday.
Yeah, and they've tested here, and Suzuki tested here, and he was romping around all the tests. And to me, it's a typical Kageyama circuit. It's a little bit more aggressive than the last few circuits we've been to, and he loves this kind of place. I'm still trying to get used to spotting him with a red helmet. It's the same design helmet, but it's actually red, where the other one was sort of multi-tone blue. And it takes a bit of spotting.
Troy Corser is now creeping on the back wheel of his predecessor as World Superbike champion James Toseland on the leading Xerox Ducati. In fact, the only full-blooded Xerox Ducati in the race. Neukirchen is still there. Look at Killy making progress, and Lanzi is now on his back wheel. Lorenzo Lanzi, he can race a motorbike, but he certainly burns toast at the breakfast table. Pitch black. Toseland holds off Troy Corser as they dip right at the hairpin at Adelaide, which is 35 to 40 mile an hour right-hander. And Stalker, he said that when he got into the heat of battle, the pain from that Elmo wouldn't trouble him. He wouldn't even be thinking about it. And there's Lanzi getting the better of his fellow Italian Frankie Chili on the Claffey Honda.
Yeah, and if you remember, I mean, Chris Walker very rarely rides fully fit, and he always rides very, very well injured. And he's certainly injured now. He can only just get sort of 40 degrees movement out of his elbow when he really needs about 80 degrees to do the job.
And when we were looking at the printout of Chris Vermeulen's astonishing record lap yesterday, Peter Baum, the guy who does all that stuff for the Win-Win 10 Cardi Honda team, was telling me that the amount of pressure on their forearms as they brake from just a fraction under 200 to 35 miles an hour from that back hairpin is enormous.
And you've got two other really heavy braking points around this circuit. It's a real upper body physical circuit, and that's why people like Lacone, who are injured, who could ride last week, are really struggling here. And this is what's even more amazing about Chris Walker's, the way he's riding at the minute.
Peter did say to me that the whole of the Winston 10 Carty Honda team have a huge amount of respect for that man Walker and the way that he can ride in this condition. So Walker, number 9, still holding on to third place. Kageyama just a second behind Vermeulen, isn't letting him get away. Vermeulen lapping at 141.054 and Kageyama 2/10 slower on that lap. And this is a huge batch that Walker's leading on the PSG1 Kawasaki. He's got a new teammate. There he is, Fonzi Nieto. He's in 15th place, fully fit. But Walker, so far, heading the charge. But is he holding these guys up? There's an awful pack behind him. They're desperate to get through. But of course, so far, they haven't found a way through.
I don't think so. I think he's going quick enough, so it's not very easy for anybody to get through.
He's lapping. He did a 1:42.0 on his last lap. As Corsa once again tries to find a way past James Toseland. Fabulous racing here at Magny Cours. This is the final round of World Superbikes, and there's real fisticuffs going on. There's contracts to ride for, and hardly anybody knows where anyone's going to be next year yet. It's absolute confusion. Very few pens have been put to paper.
Yeah, there's a lot of the sort of paddock rumour millers in at full speed, but nobody actually has any clue for sure where any of us going. Chris is riding so well here.
Now this is the plunge downhill. This is a huge speed, 175 miles per hour down here, and again braking right back to 55 for the right-hander at Lycée, the school hairpin bend there, and then zigzag right and left, still in second gear, before hooking up to fourth gear, 165 miles per hour along the start and finish straight.
You can see the cones there on the left that was knocked out of the way by... No, knock it. Everybody knock
again. Vermeulen at the moment in control of this race, it would seem, but Chris Walker, well, in control briefly of third place, and who knows, he might even stay there through Estoril up onto this red-hot back straight. Carl Muggeridge has a quick look over his shoulder. Who's there, Carl? Killy just tailing off the back slightly.
I think we're going to see Muggeridge going under
Muggeridge
Walker.
going for the but look at Walker's nodding head. He brakes as late as anybody into there, whether he's got a damaged right arm or not.
Yeah, if you're out braking Walker by a long way, you're in bother, I think.
And Pitty's having to go Troy Corser. He really did get wide out of the hairpin because he'd gone in so deep to try and get past the Elstara Corona Suzuki. This is a brave part of the track, James. And then there's a burst of full throttle there before you back off again for the left-hander.
Yeah, we saw it. This is why Pitt went wide. He actually got under. He got under Corser, but then ran so wide coming out. But yeah, you don't actually get an idea from the television. I mean, we've walked around the place and gone watching in various bleachers, do you call them, in the
Yeah,
grandstand?
in the bleachers.
And you don't get an idea from the television just how this is built on a hillside, this circuit, and you go up the hill, then down the hill, then up it again and down it again. It's really it's quite steep, isn't it?
This is a steep climb up here.
Yep.
And then the moment that they drop through the Chateau d'Eau hairpin there,
Plunging downhill.
Absolutely downhill, like you're going down a downhill ski slope. It is terrifying, and it's fast.
It is.
And then hard on the brakes again, almost standing the thing on its front, and down from fourth to second gear into the right-hander. Walker, what a fantastic ride.
Yeah,
Talk about making people take notice.
And he's not holding anybody up. It just so happens that everybody's able to go about the same speed, I think.
When they went to Japan and he tested Yanagawa's All Japan Superbike Championship bike, which is a bit more super stock spec, he said it wasn't as good as theirs. He said that engine man in Biarritz in France does such a wonderful job. They've got a lovely engine, and it does sound good. It sounds absolutely sweet.
Yeah, the team love Walker because he's the only one who's ever been on the bike who's actually... Well, they love him because he gives 110%, but they also love him because he's getting some real results on it.
And Chris reckons if anything's going to come from Kawasaki Japan next year, it's funding for the team. That's going to be the biggest help that they require.
Yeah, but I would suggest that that's because Chris Walker's done what he's done on the bike and got the team noticed.
Yeah. James Toseland, meantime, is still right in there in the back of this pack. On the last lap, Walker was on 141.5, 141.6 Muggeridge, 141.5 Toseland, 141.9 for Cours after avoiding this man, Andrew Pitt. And it was Andrew Pitt having a very slight top speed advantage on the Yamaha Italia R1 that persuaded Norihaga to go on a diet, and he now eats couscous and salad. And goes to the gym 3 times a week, and also goes running. All this is unheard of for Norrie. And it's
whatever it is, it's working.
It knocked 2 stone off him in old-fashioned English. 2 stone.
Yeah.
And Walker, you're right. Walker is just cleanly holding this 3rd place. He's having a brilliant ride. He's happy back in his motorhome, which at least his damaged arm allowed him to drive down this weekend after feeling completely homeless last weekend and wandering around with nowhere to stay.
He said it felt like a big issue seller.
Big issue, big issue, he said yesterday. Hanging around on a street corner.
There was one thing about Chris Walker, if he ever packed in racing, he could definitely do stand-up.
So Stalker still there in 3rd place. The leaders have, from that clean start and not messing with each other, Vermeulen has a 1.96 second advantage. He's just set the fastest lap, 140.9. The first man into the 140s then, Chris Vermeulen, and he has cracked the lap record of 142.219, which stood to a certain Neil Hodgson from 2003 with his Fila Ducati team. There's the leader, Chris Vermeulen, lest we forget. 71, Yukio Kageyama, fighting for his life at Suzuki. He wants to be there next year. And then the 3rd place, look at this one again. Pitt tries to outbrake Troy Corsa. Has he managed to hold it together this time? I think he has. And Corsa tries to come back underneath on the Alstara Corona Suzuki, but doesn't quite. So Andrew Pitt, who also hasn't yet been signed up, even though Mayo Meregali says he wants him back next year, Pitty has not yet been signed by Yamaha for 2006.
Yeah, there's all sorts of people poking around the paddock looking for jobs and disappearing into various hospitalities suspiciously. You've seen Ruben's house with a big sort of overcoat on, sneaking about the place.
And Gary McCoy, of course, injured with that coccyx was damaged when it was actually caused by a blown engine on the Foggy Patronus in that fast Villeneuve chicane last weekend at Imola. And there was so much oil around the place. Gary said, I looked as if I'd been wading knee-deep through a vat of oil when I got back to the garage. There was that much of it around. And here we are going downhill again with Walker, with number 31 Carl Muggeridge, and with number 1 James Toseland, the outgoing world champion.
Yep, it's actually where Toseland took his championship, and it's actually now where he's
handing it over.
Yep.
Vermeulen, of course, will be jetting home in a private jet tonight with James Toseland. James has managed to make room for him in a jet that, astonishingly, is being funded by EMAP, i.e. Motorcycle News, because they want Toseland to be at Skegness by 8 o'clock this evening. So straight after the race, and Vermeulen, of course, wants to pop home before he goes to Phillip Island to race the Camel Honda in MotoGP next weekend.
Yeah, proper rock and roll lifestyle, full-style lifestyle for these boys. One minute.
They're flying into Biggin Hill on this private jet, and then Jonathan Palmer's going to airlift him in his private helicopter up to Skegness, to Butlins.
1 minute World Championship races in France, the next minute Butlins at Skegness.
Great. The rock and roll lifestyle of James Toseland. But right now, what he's looking to do is get past Carl Muggeridge and Chris Walker. He's got Andrew Pitt pressing, he's got Troy Corsa pressing, Noy Kirchner's there, and Lorenzo Lanzi.
Lanzi, to me, has been a little bit disappointing. I thought that looking at what he's done in practice, how many laps he's done in practice, how smooth he looked and how good he looked on race tyres, I thought Lanzi could definitely run up front in this race.
But he did handicap himself with an atrocious start, didn't he?
He did, but he's not made any progress.
He hasn't. It's true. It looks as if Tosland looks as if he's looking at the fact that he's got two guys in front of him, and it's kind of blocking his way slightly. He's thinking, where can I find a gap here? How can I find a way through?
Yes,
the fastest lap on track on the last lap, fastest lap of his race was Andrew Pitt with a 1:41.7 as he carved up Troy Corser. And the gap between Kageyama and Walker is beginning to shrink. Chris Vermeulen 1:41.2, Kageyama 1:42.0, dropped 0.8, and the gap has risen to, but he's lapping at about the same time as Walker and the rest of them who are carving one another up here. So it's Vermeulen who's got the quick laps in at present. Norik Arbe's reached 11th place. David Checker is 12th. David Checker, who was hilariously referred to as Gordo on that GMT 94 Yamaha after it bladdered itself this morning. He said this is a team that can make a bike race for 24 hours but not last 20 minutes in a warm-up session. Second place for number 71, Yukio Kageyama, the 2004 World Endurance Champions, of course, here as wild cards. And again, Muggeridge, who's a pretty late demon breaker himself, looks up the inside there but can't see a way through. So there must be something that Walker's managing to do with that stricken right elbow. Fantastic performance.
You can actually see.
Oh, and this time
Muggers has it wide. No, he hasn't.
Lap 9 of 23, and Muggeridge finally gets through. And Muggeridge through. It's Tosland's turn now to have a dig at Walker. Can Walker hold on in 4th place?
I'm impressed.
Oh, Muggeridge lets go at the back.
I'm impressed by Tosland, but he actually did tell us, but we thought it was an excuse.
No. He said that, and here he's got to try and get up the inside of Walker. Here, I think he might stick it underneath. Oh, Stalker doesn't want him to, but he does get through there.
The thing is, if you're going to go under somebody and run wide, the place to do is at a chicane like he did, because there's no way the guy's getting back under you unless you run off the track.
So Tosland through to 4th.
If you do it on a plain corner and you run wide, the bloke you've passed can just tuck it up the inside and get a good run out the corner. In a chicane, you finish it, just block past it, it slows everybody up. This is a pass again. See, Walker would have gone up the inside if there hadn't been this left-hander after the right-hander. Does that make any sense?
And Tosland, it does. And Tosland looked good through that section when we were watching him during qualifying yesterday, and he certainly made that pass stick. He's now got Muggeridge in his sights while Andrew Pitt piles the coals onto Chris Walker. So Tosland, 25 last Wednesday. Can he make any impression now on the man who's escaped just ahead of him, Carl Muggeridge? And it might be Frankie Killy, who's retiring right to the far end of the pit lane there into the Team Claffey Honda garage. And Claffenbach was saying what a wonderful a popular figure he's been to have on board in their first year in World Superbikes. They're only racing World Superbikes next year. They're dropping World Supersports. That was his ambition, always to get into World Superbikes with a good team, and he's made a terrific job of it. So Klaus Claffenbach and Team Claffey only in World Superbikes next. The action absolutely as scalding as the weather here in the middle of France. We're 160 miles south of Paris at the Circuit Nevers Magny Cours, originally built an idea of the local mayor and landowner back in 1959. What a grand idea. And he named it the Jean Behre circuit after the legendary Jean Behre, the French Formula One car racer, as Chris Walker gets done there by number 88, Andrew Pitt. And Pitty is really on a mission here.
Yeah, I think Chris Walker's struggling a little bit physically.
He's got to be. He's got to be. You can't come back 6 weeks sooner than the medics tell you to after you've broken an arm in 2 places, one right on the elbow joint.
No, it doesn't matter how much you want to race, a broken bone is a broken bone.
And he made me listen while he bent the elbow as much as he could right beside me here, and it sounded like a little series of gunshots going off inside the joint. Oh dear.
That's not normally the bones, Jack. That's normally the tendons running through the guide.
Everything else, yes, it didn't sound nice.
No, it doesn't.
So Walker gallantly hanging on there behind Andrew Pitt on the Yamaha Italia R1. Meanwhile, in 3rd place is Muggeridge, who of course hasn't had a podium finish yet this year. It's something that he desperately wants before the end of the season. Even whispers that Muggers might not be entirely safe at Winston 10 Carter Honda because, they've seen the results that Vermeulen's been getting, and they might lose. Oh, and Walker boggles his way over the curb.
I think he might have missed a gear there, Jack.
Indeed, he lost out to Neukirchner and I think Lorenzo Lanzi. There's only Lanzi now who's behind him out of this squad that's been battling over 3rd place.
I tell you what, Chris Walker's really feeling it now. You can just tell that the way he's riding. he's able to do nothing about it. Yeah, maybe not Mr. Gear, maybe just went in a bit hot. But if he can't stop the bike, if he can't brake properly because he can't support his upper body weight on his arms, well, he's struggling.
Muggeridge now in 3rd place with Toseland just behind. 4th, 5th is pit number 88. Number 11, Troy Corser, is in 6th place, having started 16th on the grid. Muggers, who's been pretty quick all weekend, although he had a big off during yesterday afternoon. We've lost, incidentally, number 99 on the FP Foggy Patronus. That was Steve Martin, who's had a fairly nightmarish weekend because the bike broke down again this morning during warm-up.
Yeah, the whole team they've had a nightmare. From Friday, they were really upbeat because Steve had ended up 6th, I think, overall, but been running 3rd most of the session.
Yeah.
But then from yesterday onwards and this morning, it's been a complete nightmare. Engines blowing, riders crashing, things going wrong. They were up till apparently 4 o'clock this morning. The team putting the bikes together.
Yeah.
And other people who were sleeping in the paddock in moorhomes could hear their engine, which is quite distinctive, the FP1 bike, revving up and warming up and making sure it ran, having fitted new engines at 4 o'clock this morning. So there's some bloodshot eyes in their garage.
And Andy Notman, of course, the 26-year-old Nottinghamshire boy who is there, the second rider for Foggy Patronus. He'd done a bit of testing for them at Snetterton, but that was in the damp, so he's been having a pretty steep learning curve here, but knocking about a second and a half a day off his time. But he had a nasty accident at the bottom of that final hill yesterday, ended up in Nevers General Hospital, ended up with a complete comedy little finger with a massive bandage on it, which Dr. Costa has at least transmuted into a neater thing. That means that he could actually race the bike.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea or not. I mean, he was hardly pushing for a top 10. It's his first time on the bike, and like you say, he's on the real steep part of the learning curve.
Giovanni Bussai has just got the better of Fonzie Nieto and become the second quickest Kawasaki in the race, ahead of Nieto and Sanchini. And Vincent Philippe, number 62, was kind of lumbering round yesterday, during qualifying yesterday, has reached 18th place on his GSXR 1000. Incidentally, outside the top 10, we've got Lanzi in 9th place, 10th is Norik Arbe, 12th is 11th David Checker, 12th place is Ben Bostrom on the Koji Renegade Honda, who's being encouraged, of course, once again by the presence of his younger brother Eric. Eric, who's a really cool, easygoing lad who's been kind of just trying to sort his brother's mental state out a bit, really. Eric himself, incidentally, I'm not allowed to tell you which manufacturer. He's going back, I'm glad to say, he's going back to 4-cylinder thousands next year in the AMA Championship, because I've always felt that's what really suited his style. I think he's fantastic on the 4-cylinder bikes. And this is a man who's fantastic on the 4-cylinder bikes, is Yukio Kageyama. He's in 2nd place. He goes through the final turn, swings through the final chicane. And that red helmet doesn't look right, Yukio. I'm going to have a word with you about that. I want the blue one back on.
It doesn't. It tears a tear off there. And yeah, when it's like, I mean, this time of year, there won't be as many flies and general bugs to hit and block your visor, but still, when the sun's out, there'll still be Will Sun.
There'll still be Will Sun. That was
Sorry,
a nice that was a nice bit of Team Klaffenbach sort of PR speak.
I've been hanging about with you that long, Jack.
This is Yukio Kageyama then. He is in 2nd place. I mean, this could be one of his best rides for a long time. Remember that he's on 212 points. He's only 11 points behind Yukio Kageyama in the, beg your pardon, 9 points behind Regis Laconi in the championship chase. So he really has got a chance to improve his ranking right here and now with Laconi out of competition. Toseland, where can he find a way through, James? He really is beginning to threaten Carl Muggeridge now. He's closed the gap a little. Oh, James, get that bike down. That's what we like to see, the loose James Toseland riding style.
I would love to see James get a podium today.
I'd love to see Muggers get one, and Pitty come to that. They all deserve
all have
one. We want a dead heat. Dead heat for 3rd place, boys, if you could arrange it. Troy Corser, of course, still lurking there behind these three, but they're certainly showing that they're able to supply some opposition to the new world champion when he at least starts behind them rather than from the front row of the grid and takes off. Incidentally, Troy Corser was what he'd said to Chris Vermeulen on that entertaining slowing down lap at Imola last weekend, folks, was because he knew that Vermeulen had a cut slick front on and couldn't understand how he survived it. He pointed at it and he said, "I was waiting for you to fall off," and Chris shouted back, "So was I."
Yeah, now
Vermeulen's
just gone over the line and he's basically got 7 seconds back to Kageyama and then another 7 seconds back to Muggeridge. So disappeared into the middle distance.
And he's just dropped his time back to exactly 1:42, Chris Vermeulen. So he's obviously fairly relaxed at the front. He runs so much back brake apparently that he was actually down to metal on metal for the last 5 laps at Imola. But he said with that cut slick front, he was having to do all his braking absolutely upright, like these guys are doing now. Except that Tolleston has done it just a bit later than Muggeridge. Creeps underneath it now. Can he keep the power on? He can, because Muggers is concerned about who's behind him. So James Tolleston slips through into 3rd place on the Xerox Ducati, and here comes Pitty having a look up the inside as well, thinking if you're going to look round at me, I'll have a go at you. Oh, James Tolleston is on the limit with the Xerox Ducati, but that was a good move. He's finally got himself through into 3rd place. Now what can he do? We've had 15 laps down out of 23 here at Magny, the 2.65 mile circuit in the middle of France. Nevers, the local town, fabulous medieval town. And there's a very, very small village of Magny. If you'd bought your retirement home there expecting peace and quiet, boy, you're in for disappointment when this track was opened.
Yep. Good clean pass.
Nice move.
Yep. No way back. One thing you're saying about the town, I'm fairly disappointed with a only 2-star hotel, Jack. I think we deserve better. I've got to say.
Very comfortable bed though, James.
Yeah, it's all right.
We should know. We spent about 10 hours in our separate bedrooms last night. We were so whacked last night. We were in bed at 9:30.
We went to his bedrooms, arranged to reconvene back in the bar in 10 minutes, and just never came out.
Vermeulen leads by 8 seconds now. Kageyama is 2nd, but he too has a good 6-second cushion over this battle for 3rd place, which continues to rage. Stalker's just dropped back a little now, but Lanzi not so far showing any signs of getting back past on the Scuderia Karaki GA Xerox Ducati. GA is a mechanical tooling company which is actually in direct opposition to one of Xerox Ducati's main sponsors, but they've kind of managed to come to an agreement on that one. Lorenzo Lanzi, of course, strongly rumoured to be a full-fledged Xerox Ducati, or at least Ducati racer next year, probably alongside Troy Bayliss. That's how desperate the scrabble for seats is, because that means that Regis Laconi and James Tolleston are looking elsewhere.
Yeah, this is a strange year now. It isn't always like this. It does change around, but this off-season, this winter, would seem to be a time when there is definitely more riders and bikes. Or, as Clive Padgett once put it, there's more bums than saddles, he says. I didn't say exactly like that, but that's the only way I can say it on television.
Right.
But basically, there's a lot of good riders looking for rides, and yeah, it's one of those where you know there's going to be some good riders with not brilliant rides, to be honest. So they're all riding for the jobs, these lads.
Troy Corser, we know, of course, is going to be to see them drifting, absolutely pure 2-wheel drifts out of the top hairpin then before herring downhill. Yeah. And then break. Corser from a long way back.
That's a block pass, that.
He block passes Pitt and he manages to hold his line. And he obviously wasn't best chuffed at being passed by his fellow Australian. So the 33-year-old Troy Corser, who's got all the family with him this week. It's the first time we've met his mum and dad. We met what they call them, Gigi and Errol, which is kind of grandma and granddad often enough. But no, the parents are over to see him receive his World Championship trophy.
Yeah, you're saying about the drifting and the spinning round here. One of the things that I picked up from the telemetry lap, this is Corser's pass on Pitt again, of Vermeulen's, with the fact that they've got wheel speeds on. The actual front and rear wheel are never going this for the full lap, never going the same speed. Either when they break in. And
the Corser goes wide, and he looks round. He made a mistake, and he lost out to Max Neukirchner as well, the 22-year-old German from Saxony in the German Democratic Republic, who has an enormous amount of support from back home, because it's really the first time they've ever produced for many, many years a top-flight motorcycle racer has slipped through as well. And Regis Laconi, I thought he'd be watching it. He loves watching his racing, even if he can't take part. Oh, for a moment there, Muggers. But there again, Muggers has so many of them. I think they're just second nature to him.
Yeah.
So Pitt is back into 5th place. 6th, Neukirchner. 7th now, number 11, Corser. And Chris Walker stood not far behind this guy. And he's still got, look, he's thought, oh, hang on, I can have a sniff at the world champion here.
Yep.
He says that the racing adrenaline is what makes the difference, that you can actually overcome the agony of what you're riding through.
And this is, we know Corser's going into it. This is where he took Pitt last lap.
Now that doesn't look to me like a block pass because
It's not. No, what I meant
but
is
look,
he's-
no, Kirsten just comes back on him.
What I meant is he's gone in a little bit too hot, but if we can just manage to hold it tight enough to not let the other bloke pass into the next corner, which is a chicane up to the start and finish, well, he's got away with it.
So Troy Corser gets removed again by this guy, Max Neukirchner, who was just 22 years old. Nice move. You're not best pleased with his fairing though. He's put a kind of German flag on that beautiful silver and black colour scheme of the Team Claffey Honda, and we're not too sure about that, are we, James?
I think it looks all right, actually.
Oh, I beg your pardon. It mustn't have been you that said to me. Sorry, it was someone else who said to me. This is Toseland in third place, number 1, fourth, number 31, Mugridge. Troy Corser is now a Suzuki filling in a bit of a sandwich there, with the Honda in front of him, Kawasaki behind. Yuko Kageyama really solidly there, and David Checker has come through into 11th place.
They've also got a spare engine in the garage, yeah? After exploding one this morning, I think.
Oh yeah, they must have done, yes. Yes, they certainly made a mess of the track this morning, didn't they? 18 laps out of 23 complete then here at Magny in the first race of the final round. Chris Vermeulen storms across the finishing line. He completes his 19th lap and he looks in supreme condition. He's really, things are going really well for him this weekend. He's been enjoying the weekend right the way through. He never wanted to qualify too fast until Superpole. Tried to stay down in 8th position, ended up 4th, but that was okay. That meant he didn't sit around for too long and get too hyper about going out and doing a Superpole lap, and he just did a perfect job. He said he was expecting about a 138. He thought he might be able to manage a 138.9. So the 39.9, but he was pretty chuffed with it when he found it was a 39.8.
Yeah. But he's been so relaxed all weekend. Well, the last couple of rounds actually, Vermeulen's just been right on top of the game. He's been relaxed. He's just easy for him at the minute.
Here comes Toseland still holding out in front of Carl Mugridge. Mugridge taking a little bit of a look inside as they go through the hairpin at Adelaide. This is such a difficult track to pass on. There's guys going to be within inches of one another.
Yeah,
but
because
it's down to millimetres, isn't it?
It's only possible to pass into the slow corners on the brakes. That's the only. There's basically two major passing places here, because even the straights have kinks in them. There's only kind of one line around the whole circuit.
And that's the line you've got to find. That's the elegant line, as Max Neukirchner put it, that you've got to find around this circuit that reminds him of a beautiful woman. And these guys certainly seem to be finding the elegant line round. Muggers has actually found a tighter line, and yesterday he was tending to use the whole width of the track at that point, and he's finding a tighter line now in the race to carry him up to Chateau d'Eau.
And he's having another little look at Toseland now. He's been just clinging on for the last few laps, but now looks like he's ready to have a bit of a go.
Tenkate Honda engines, of course, being matched really by the engines of Klaus Klaffenbach's team in terms of sheer speed. Claffey's engines are tuned in Belgium by Balder, and Balder's dad actually tuned the first engine that ever won the World Superbike Championship in the hands of Merkel back in 1988.
Yeah, that would be
a bit of pedigree with Honda engines.
A Rumi Honda.
Yeah, the Rumi Honda.
A Rumi Honda RC30.
Yeah.
Merkel rode that bike well. A lovely purple and gold, beautiful looking bike.
Well, look at this. Look how close Carl Mugridge is, and he just slipstreams round the outside. Wow.
That'll be a fast engine then.
That'll be horsepower then.
Oh.
So Muggers gets himself back into third place as they drop into the Adelaide hairpin.
I thought he looked like he was just having another little look there.
Ooh, that's a brave place to go around the outside a few millimetres away.
It is, and that's fast. That's almost 200 miles an hour. Talking
about millimetres away, Peter in the Winston Tenkate garage was telling me last night that if a mechanic makes a slight mistake and they kind of, oh here, just take a look at this. Oh, how close is that? Yep. Squeezing him over and just leaving him enough room to breathe as they go down at virtually 200 miles an hour down the back straight. And he was saying that if, for example, that Vermeulen was sent out and there were 2 millimetres out with the setting of the front fork, he'd be straight back in saying, no, sorry, this isn't quite right. Yeah, that's quite a lot with 2 millimetres in the fork push. Is that a lot? Yeah, it's not a lot, but it's certainly, it should be noticeable. To a layman, it sounds like nothing. It should be noticeable, yeah. It sounds like absolutely nothing. nothing. Breaking hard down into the final complex once again. James Toseland, number 1, 4th. Carl Muggeridge, number 31, is in 3rd place. And they've been waging this battle right from the beginning of the race, pretty much. And that Muggeridge lap 142.6 was the fastest on the circuit on that lap. 142.7 for his teammate in the lead, Chris Vermeulen.
And if Toseland's going to finish the season off with a flourish and get on the roster, he's going to have to do something about it fairly soon. I think we've got this
21, there's 2 laps to go.
This one.
This is the penultimate lap now. Can Toseland get close enough? And look at this, Cours getting alongside Andrew Pitt as they go down the back straight. He's taken the inside way through. So a terrific battle going on between the newly crowned World Superbike champion and the former World Supersports champ. So Alstara Corona Suzuki's Troy Corser, who's doubled the World Superbike race win tally of Suzuki during the course of this season. They'd had 8 race wins before 2005. At the end of the season, they've got 16. And nerves fraying in the Corona team. What could be neater, though, when it gets the headline status of Corona. Oh, and there's Toseland muscling Muggeridge aside. And then Muggeridge muscling back. Oh, these two, absolutely. And Muggers gave him a little wave of apology there. That was kind of him.
Yeah, Muggers is a hard rider, really is. He leaves you just enough room, but not plenty.
Wow,
that's going to make Toseland angry.
This is getting into a popping final lap. Look what happened, because it looked as if Muggers had just squeezed it a bit wide there, given Toseland the chance.
Left him a bit of room. But watch it. This is the next thing. Watch when he flicks it left if it shows it. He leaves him no room whatsoever. Didn't show it.
So Carl Muggeridge then back into 3rd place, but is this one settled yet? I don't think so. We're into the last lap. The leaders have gone through. Vermeulen in the lead. 2nd place, Yukio Kagayama. Those 2 places are surely assured. This one isn't. This is the battle for 3rd. And I'll tell you what, I think that Troy Corser and Andrew Pitt will be thinking, wow, anything can happen ahead.
That's what I'd be thinking. Go on, lad. I'd be thinking, go on, have a go at each other.
Lorenzo Lanzi is still in 9th place behind Neukirchner. Yeah, they'll be egging them on, won't they? Come on, guys. Oh, he's not close enough.
He isn't.
He's not got the sheer speed down the back straight. He comes wide to the outside.
Look how defensive Muggeridge is riding. That means he's got to run white coming out, you'd think.
Oh, he runs it wide, he does! Toseland squeezes through underneath Muggeridge into the final lap. Muggers, what can he respond with now?
Nothing.
He's got Corser right behind him.
I tell you, Muggeridge did that to himself because you're so defensive going in. He were bound to run wide going out.
So for this time, Muggeridge gets squeezed back on the Winston Tenkate Honda. His teammate, Chris Vermeulen, is in the lead and heading for yet another astonishing race win. But look at this, all eyes at the moment on the battle for 3rd place.
There's 1 corner left, he can do it now, that's it.
Now into the blind right-hander, dipping into the right-hander in the hollow and then climbing up the hill through the left, but he's not very close as they head up to Chateau d'Eau.
It's down into the last corner but 1 that he's going to do it.
The European Superstock Championship was decided this morning in a last-ditch effort by Didier Van Mullen as he went into that final chicane, and he managed to squeeze out Sofuoglu and clinch the championship. Chris Vermeulen, he wins. 2nd, a great ride by Kagayama, but here is James Toseland. He's done it. He comes through to clinch 3rd place for Xerox Ducati and get himself back on the podium ahead of Carl Muggeridge, looking bitterly disappointed at number 11. No, he comes across to congratulate. That was a cracking race between 2 of the guns of World Superbikes. Chris Vermeulen gets congratulated on, well, such a spectacular victory. We hardly saw him, really. He was just clean away at the front. And there's his sister, Jess, and his